To rejoin the tour, come back to the bus stop that you got off at, and ahead is the City Chambers building where Glasgow's business is run from. There are tours of its wonderful interiors every weekday at 10:30 and again at 2:30, and those are free. Well, this city has enjoyed several successful lives over its centuries. In medieval times, pilgrims would have come to worship. Glasgow changed to be an area of merchant trading. Wealthy merchants trading commodities made in Scotland to exchange for tobacco grown in the British American colonies. These men made their millions. They wore the scarlet tunic and cloak of the European merchants. They really monopolised the tobacco trading, and the tobacco was used for snuff, a very fashionable commodity of the 1700s. In the 19th century, Glasgow grew to be a hub of heavy engineering, a sooty black industrial Glasgow throughout the 19th century and the first half of the 20th century. And at the height of the heavy industry, the population reached almost 1.25 million, living cheek by jowl in tenement flats. That heavy industry is all gone, only light engineering and design nowadays, and some growth sectors. And on the right part of the campus of the University of Strathclyde, our second of the three unis. This history links back to 1796. It had a different name at that time. It was called the Anderson College, named after its founder, John Anderson, a scientist. His students knew him by his nickname, Jolly Jack Phosphorus. And he developed classes in the disciplines of science and engineering. Ahead, coming into view, the spire of our Gothic cathedral, Glasgow Cathedral, built in the 13th century, very small in size but fascinating in its history. And if you are visiting, do make sure you look at the undercroft or lower church with its wonderful vaulted work. Next to the cathedral, ahead on our left, is Glasgow Royal Infirmary, this huge hospital building. In the original Glasgow Royal, on this same site, Joseph Lister pioneered the use of antiseptic surgery by using carbolic acid. And the students of that day were known to intone just a wee bit like a minister, "Now let us spray," and then continued to spray the carbolic acid, representing St. Mungo, the emblem of faith and miracles, the little robin on his hand. This was painted by Australian street artist. His name is Sam Bates, and he's also known by his alias, Smug. So all the graffiti artists have their alias, don't they? We're fortunate to have three wonderful murals from Smug. And that certainly didn't look like he lived in the 6th century, did he? But he's represented St. Mungo, not living in the 6th century, but in modern urban wear or street clothing. If I have the chance, I'll speak more of the robin, the emblem of faith. Just now, we're approaching stop number 3, our Merchant City stop. The main thrust of the Merchant City nowadays is to the right. You'll find quality restaurants there, a nice atmosphere in the evening and at weekends, designer shopping in Ingram Street, and a few visitor attractions including the Glasgow Police Museum and the Shermanka Kinetic Theatre. The blue-faced clock steeple ahead is the toll booth steeple, built in 1626, all that remains of the former toll house where this city's business was one time governed from. To the right is the Tron Gate. Way to the Tron. The Tron was the weighing beam once used on market day. And wherever you see an address with a suffix gate, it means way to. And we're just about to turn left into the Gallow Gate. You've got it, way to the gallows, our hanging place. And here at the toll booth steeple, there certainly was once a hanging place. 200 crowns were once punishable. Ken Flea Market, the Barras, but just Saturday and Sunday for that. And today you can enjoy a visit to the smallest, or oldest, it is pretty small, but oldest sweet shop, the Glickmans. Ahead on the left, another garishly painted tenement wall. This time this represents Sir Billy Connolly, Glasgow's famous comic. He celebrated his 75th birthday a few years ago, and 3 special art pieces were commissioned then, that being one of them. That's an enlargement in mural form of a smaller digital photograph taken by Scottish artist Rachel McLean, and she dressed Billy in a funny costume, and it all gives a nod or reference to his various jokes over his career. Now we're just now one of Europe's oldest public spaces. Anciently people grazed cattle on the green. Women through the centuries have done the washing, bleached the linen. Bonnie Prince Charlie, he camped his Highland army here before they to march on to the north of Scotland in that massacre that took place on Culloden Moor in 1746. I hasten to add that Glasgow city fathers at that time were not Jacobite in their opinion. They were horrified to see the Jacobites come marching into the then Glasgow. Looking ahead there, you'll see the frontage of the former Templeton's carpet factory, architecturally influenced by the Doge's Palace in Venice, Italy. It no longer makes carpets, but this factory once made the luxury carpets that have graced the finest buildings around the world, including the White House, and it also made the at its foot there's a big rock with an inscription interpreting the story of James Watt of steam engine fame. He worked at the old college of Glasgow University when it stood in High Street. He was presented with the model of a new common engine that had already been invented. He realised it could be made more efficient by making a separate steam condenser, and it was that did the trick, making steam power viable. Coming up shortly, we'll see on the right an old Georgian church called St Andrew's by the Green, referring to Glasgow Green. And it has a nickname. It's nicknamed the Whistling Kirk because it was one of the first churches to have an organ for the congregation to sing along to. It was rather a wheezy affair, and it was dubbed the whole building the Whistling Church or Whistling Kirk. Ahead on ground level is our modern or new High Court where all the major criminal cases
has used it to stage tennis tournaments to raise funds for charity. Coming up right ahead of us on the left, the Solder Bay building is the 500 interlinked halls of the Scottish Exhibition and Current Centre, another exhibition on the history of whisky distilling in Glasgow story for a long day. Coming up ahead of us on the left, you can see the massive Glasgow Roomtail ship, the MV Glen Lee. She was built in Longside, 1896 as a cargo vessel. It was sold for about 2 years. Opened as a maritime museum in 1999. Well missing, gives you a great idea of what it was like on the sea a couple of years ago. British Iraqi airport named Zaha Hadid. And to further that, the right the building, put the collection together, open the doors, cost £74 million.
Ahí al final. University of Glasgow, Scotland.